week we have an amazing guest, Kristen Fox. Kristen, welcome to the Practice Freedom Playbook.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jamey.
You're so welcome. Now, in all due transparency, Kristen is a client of Practice Freedom U, and today what I wanted to use her as is a case study to help you, whether have a smaller business with one or two therapists, or have a larger business with several therapists, or $1 million or what have you. But there's always nuggets you can grab. So without further ado, so Kristen, I just have some questions to ask, and just freely answer what kind of comes and resonates with you. First of all, what type of practice do you have? Where you're located? How many years you've been in business?
Sure. So we have an outpatient physical therapy private practice in eastern South Dakota, very rural, very general. We have 2 clinic locations. Our primary location is in a community of about 6,000 to 7,000 people, and our other location is very small, town of under 1,000 people, which happens to be my hometown and the hometown of one of our other therapists. We have 3 full-time PTs, a PTA, full-time office manager, and then like a part-time benefits specialist on staff currently. Looking to grow and expand that a little bit. And I have been in practice. I've been a PT for 17 years, but I have been a clinic owner going on my 7th year now. So,
what was the biggest challenge? And think back to that moment. What was the biggest challenge you were experiencing, or what was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back when you just made the decision of, you know what, I need to get some help here. I can't figure it out on my own.
My parents were business owners. I have a family full of business owners. I'm married to a business owner with a couple different companies. And so, not being able to answer the question, I mean, he's in a totally separate industry, but, he'd come home at night and you're talking shop a little bit. And, he'd always ask, well, how's the business doing? How are you guys doing? Like, where are we at? And just never feeling like I could answer that question. And it just ate at me, because I'm like, this shouldn't be this difficult. Like, I'm a smart enough human. Like, I should be able to answer these questions. And the fact that I can't really bothered me. And it bothered him too. And it was causes friction. And I would always say it's not that easy. And he'd always say it's not that hard, So I think just that.
So you mentioned the spirited discussions after work, but in all seriousness, how did this wait, not able to answer the question, how's it going? And feeling like, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but sometimes I know for myself and what I've heard in others, it's like feeling like, maybe failure is a strong word, but feeling like I'm supposed to know. How did that affect just your own psyche? How did it affect your relationships, not just with your husband, but with your staff or with other people, friends? And thirdly, did it have any effect on your well-being and health or anything like that?
Like I said, I grew up in a family of my parents. They sold boats. They had a marine business, and in a time like in the 80s where not an easy sell, with interest rates and things like that, and just seeing how hard it can be, and knowing the complexity of our family dynamic of multiple companies and the weight and stress it puts on all of us, and feeling like I was more of a burden. Like I was, I set out to do this because of my passion for what we do in the profession and all of those things. And I'm so deeply passionate about our profession and what we do, but feeling like chasing that passion and what I wanted to do with my life, was actually creating more of a financial burden or liability to our family, and putting, taking their mother away from our kids, and, just feeling like this incredible burden of like, is this actually worth it? Like, I want this to be worth it, and I don't want to fail, and I know this can work, but I don't want to end up dead. I don't want to end up divorced, and I don't want to end up with a disease. And it definitely was having an impact on my health, not taking the time to invest in myself and just, do things that are good for me, for my health and well-being. It was really starting to put a weight, for myself and for my husband and our whole family. And yeah, you see so much of that where the price of success is sometimes that those other things crack and break. And I just knew that more than anything, I'd rather fail at this than have those things, fall apart. But at the same time, still really felt like there's a way that we can achieve both.
Yeah. to have that both, that balance with
Yeah.
your family and your health and well-being, and feel good about the business that you're creating. Was there any feelings of guilt, especially with the kids, being a mother who sole owner of a business? Maybe a little?
Yeah, more than a little, right? And and too, because we don't have that, my parents grew up, I grew up with them working together. So at least whatever we did, we were all together. And that's not the same dynamic for us. And just that questioning yourself, like, is this really the right thing to do? Like, I want to teach them, and I want to show them what hard work can do. I want to show them what investing in into your community can do, and all of those things, that you hope that lessons they learn from watching you do what you do, but definitely in the background, that self-doubt of, are they going to graduate and leave the house and be sitting there going, my mom was never here for me. She was always too worried about work. Am I investing more in this and everyone else and letting them go by the wayside? So,
yeah. So you started to look for solutions, basically. You started to look for help. And there's a lot of solutions out there, and we all know that the best solution answers the question. So we really have to understand what's really the question we're trying to ask here. And there was something you said before that I knew I wanted individual coaching, like individual guidance versus masterminds, or you go online and you purchase a program, or you're in a Facebook group of 500 people or something like that. What was it about? A couple questions here. What was it about one-on-one coaching that you felt was needed for you to get your business to where you want it to be? And frankly, why did you choose us? Why did you choose Practice Freedom U and myself and our team?
I think the individual component for me, like I had, like I said, dabbled in some things here and there and met with other people and done a couple other things that were maybe a little more just training or group oriented or masterminds. And although I find, useful things in all of those, I just had this, it's like, but you don't know me. You don't know my story. You don't know my business, where I'm at. I mean, not everybody really has a grasp about what rural South Dakota is really like. There's a lot of perception, but just all of those things. And so, and even for me, my own thing, like for me, having somebody that can understand, more than just me and my business, but like, my family and that whole, structure. And so in those bigger groups, I just never felt like you had that connection, and deeper understanding that was really going to focus the energy towards what's it going to take to get me where I need to be or where we need to go. And so I knew I wanted something that had that individual component where it was more personalized and more one-on-one. And yet, like with Practice Freedom U, when I met you, Jamey, and I did one of your workshops at PPS, and if you want to know, like, I can joke with you and say, like, well, you swore at me and you bought me a drink, so that's why I signed up. But I mean, in all honesty, for me, it was really just your authenticity and the realistic nature. Now you're gonna have to buy everybody a drink, but I want somebody who's real and not afraid to be themselves, And I felt like I just made that connection, I think, with you and with your team and the people that I met when I was there, and it felt like a right fit from the get-go. And I have to say, I haven't regretted that decision a single day since. So
yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. I mean, we all went to college and we wrote big checks to college before we ever had one class.
right.
So we all make investments in anything. That's the way life is. There's no guarantees in anything. And you mentioned number one, you were in a place where a vulnerable place. You were like, look, I know what I want. I know it's possible. I have no idea how to get there. And I don't feel great about myself. And I realized that being in a group is fine for asking about different tools and technologies, but I want a relationship that's closer, that's deeper, that's really all about me, like selfishly all about me. Which I imagine that's hard because we're such giving people as healthcare care providers, as in this case, physical therapists. And then there's the realness. I can't imagine you reached out when your business was profitably crazy profitable. Not too many people, reach out for help when they're at that level. So having that confidence to be like, I need to make this investment. And I love what you said, in myself, because ultimately, as you know, that's the investment you're making in. So you made this investment. I said a couple expletives. You're like, all right, I like that.
Man.
You know, we're at a conference, throwing around, slinging around some drinks. But seriously, what has been one or two of the biggest ahas for you, the transformations, the real results that you've achieved with coaching, with our team, with a framework and everything else that you've had?
Yeah. I think a couple things. One, just the amount of self-awareness I've gained. Like I've always felt like I was decent at, self-reflection and some of those types of things, but just more of that awareness of who I am, what my purpose is, my why. And that's not, that was part of that workshop even. And it's really taken me even the couple of years that I've been with you guys to really fine tune it and actually sit in it and feel comfortable. Like I finally said this, just last week. I think for the first time maybe ever in my life, like I feel extremely comfortable and confident with who I am and what I'm here for and bigger purpose I can serve. And then none of that would have happened without a lot of poking and prodding and, coaching to do the work that it takes.
Let me interrupt here.
Yeah.
I do that very well. Someone listening hasn't had coaching, but feels a little bit what you're feeling. That's great. You're more aligned with who you are and your feelings and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
How has that helped you in your life, with your relationships? And let's get specific, in your business with revenues and profits and your team. Like, how has something like that, because 20 years ago, if someone told me what you said, I'd be like, all right, that's nice, but I'm in a tough place right now. I need real tactics. I need strategies. Finding out and being more aware, is that really a powerful difference that I need? What would you say?
Yeah. So, and a little bit of that lies in in part two, but truthfully, it's about the level of confidence I have now in the decisions I make and how I do it. And, by nature, I think, it's interesting because I've always been perceived as a pretty confident person, which it took a long time for me to actually recognize that, because on the backside of that, I second guess everything I do. And maybe the only person that knows that about me is, my husband. And so, just being able to actually have confidence and deliver things with more clarity and confidence, whether it's talking with my team. And this is still new and in process, no doubt, but, being more unapologetic for, I always, you sit there and you second guess yourself and you constantly apologize, even when you shouldn't. You don't come off as a very powerful leader that knows what they're doing. And so for me, just being able to become more aware, build confidence, and be unapologetic in what I do, because I know what I'm doing and why, and I know that it's a good thing. It's a good mission. When it comes down to like the nuts and bolts, I was aware of KPIs and metrics, but I really had no idea which ones mattered to me, because different practices and settings and sizes, like sometimes those numbers matter different in different places. And so, you hear all about this and this, and, identifying some of those key things and identifying, which ones are having the biggest impact on why I'm not profitable. For us, it was utilization rate. I know that's common in a lot of things. Everybody feels busy. I felt like we were busy, but when you really start to boil it down and look at it, we weren't busy enough. And, sometimes when you feel busy, you think you need to hire, and then that just impacts it even more negatively. And so really being able to wrap my brain around seeing those things and seeing through just the numbers and how it impacts, everything from revenue to profitability, all of those things, that has been a game changer for me, being able to identify that stuff. And then to be able to start to speak to it and share it with our team, which again, I'm still evolving. I'm still getting better at how I communicate those things. I know that I don't do it as well as I should all the time, but luckily for me, I have a team that's given me some grace, and it's taken a lot of critical conversations. It's taken a lot of difficult conversations, especially with the people that have been with us longer, because they've seen such a transformation and evolution. And sometimes, what I'm learning now is that without some context, it just leaves them kind of feeling lost and like, where's this thing going? And so again, like through coaching and being able to know that I need to bring that back to them. I need to give them that context, share that vision, be more transparent and vulnerable with them about my own evolution and the growth and changes that I've been having and how that should positively impact them and give them room for growth and the possibilities, that can be endless for our team. So
when you are more clear in like not just who you are, what you're about, what you're doing, but also clarity in the form of financials and metrics and key performance indicators, which I don't know too many people that are in our world that love that stuff, right? We're in the health related world, but it's important to understand those things in business. And as you leaned into that, it gave you more clarity. And when you have clarity, you have confidence. And when you have confidence, you make better decisions. Those decisions lead to more revenue and profit. And you show up to your team better, and you show up more vulnerable, and you show up willing to listen. And things that they might say or do don't bother you as well because you're so feeling good about who you are and what this is about. And you're able to make this more of a collaborative experience where your job is to not point and direct, but to support your team and encourage and guide and give them what they need. So that's everything that I grabbed from what you just said. And that is powerful stuff. So in the last 2 years, and you can get detailed as you want or not, that's up to you. You can use percentages, but what has been the result of that within your business as far as have you grown? Are you more profitable? Is your team better? Is your retention better? Is your ability to hire better? Like, what has been the results of this work that you're doing with your Practice Freedom U business coach and with our program and the other people that are in it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, in year one, I have to be 100% truthful. Like I did not have a lot of growth, right? Revenues and things stayed about the same, but we had a lot of disruption and change. So in that first, 12 months, really, like right before I actually joined PFU, my mother had a major medical condition that came on, and I mean, it was I remember our onboarding call, Jamey, and I was sitting in the car in the parking lot of the hospital, trying to figure out how I'm going to start this and stay committed. And but at the end of the day, I think the biggest success and growth that came out of year one for me was the fact that I didn't lose control of everything.
You and I were talking before we started recording, and we talked about, when you start building the foundation of your business, you take off the pressure of the money, you have more control of your time, you're able to see what's possible. Instead of everything just being, I can't, you start to look at, oh my God, there's lots of opportunities out there, and that's exciting. Of course, then the problem is, okay, which one do I choose and all of that? But it's a different level of energy, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, that's been kind of my more consistent mantra, why not and what if,
Why not and what if? I love it. So final question.
Yeah.
Somebody's listening, they're nodding their head, they're in the car or wherever, and they're like, okay, this gal's making sense. I'm resonating with her. They're on the fence. They agree that, you know what, I think coaching, especially coaching at a high level, like we're talking about, coaching one-on-one, someone that really understands me and not some cookie cutter, whatever. Why should they choose us? Why should they choose Jamey, Practice Freedom U, and his team, in your opinion?
Well, I already said, like I said, when you pay, you pay attention. So get over the investment, because for me, the return on that investment in 24 months is way more than what I've put into it. I feel like I've gotten so much more out of that and more to go. But yeah, I think, it has to be a right fit, right? It's like hiring, like it has to be a right fit. That was something that I've really come to take away. I talked about those key employees, and you do have to find what resonates with you. But I think with your team, I've met some of your different coaches and the insights and the things that they bring to the table on our tier calls and our group calls. And it's been just outstanding to see that outside of like my one-on-one coach. There's just so many cool perspectives, the network of people. I mean, going to PPS this year compared to 2 years ago was just a totally different energy for me, a totally different focus. I actually had a focus, which was also awesome.
Yeah.
But, and just, yeah, walking around and seeing like all the connections I made and getting to meet those people face to face and spend time together was really cool. Just
You
building
would tell that person that's on the fence and that fence is starting to hurt, what?
do it. Just why not? What if? I
Yeah.
honestly, yeah, if you're on the fence, take a risk. Sometimes we're a little risk adverse, and for me, it's been the best one yet. Paid off the most.
Excellent. Well, Kristen, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing your story and your experience. And I know there's just so many more amazing things for you because now the fun really begins because when you're consciously competent in what you're doing, even though we all have imposter syndrome and all that stuff, and we don't know exactly how things are going to go, but when you start putting in some of these principles, some of these strategies, oh my God, things start to exponentially grow. You've been through the hardest part and you've come out. So thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Jamey.
Good. And be on the lookout for another episode of the Practice Freedom Playbook with yours truly, Jamey Schrier. See you next time.